Hey everybody, so this guy did a video response to me and I thought that we would go ahead and take a look. Oh hey, it's Ben Shapiro. Interesting. Well, let's see what Ben has to say. But before we do, I need to warn you that Ben has a pretty lengthy introductory video to this, so bear with me as we take a look.
Why are you doing this?
I'm using you as bait.
The Satanic Temple is a federally registered and recognized religion.
Did you know Satanists don't even believe in Satan?
Done! Your fate is already sealed!
Woke pastor.
What the hell was that?
Well, folks, with the decline of Western religion, meaning like Christianity.
Oh, hey everybody, Ben is going to talk about the downfall of Western religion, specifically Christianity. So Ben is going to talk with us about the principles of Christ. You know, Jesus who healed people for free. So Ben is going to talk about universal health care. Jesus who talked about the forgiveness of debt. So Ben is going to talk about debt forgiveness. He's also going to talk about when Jesus says those who live by the sword die by the sword. So you shouldn't take up the sword. So Ben is going to talk about nonviolent principles. Ben is also going to point out that Jesus said the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And so Ben is going to criticize Christian nationalism because it wants to make itself first and everybody else last. He's going to talk about how one of Jesus's greatest criticisms was against the super wealthy, when Jesus said that it is easier for a camel to walk through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. So Ben is going to criticize Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, right? Because Donald Trump is super rich. At least he likes to brag about it. So Ben is going to talk about these people and criticize them for not living into Christian principles and leading to the downfall of Western religion, right?
There have been a bevy of new religions to fill the gap. It turns out that the answer to religion was not a sort of rationalistic atheism. It
Why did I get my hopes up?
turns out that the answer to religion was a bunch of crazy insanity that is essentially paganism. Welcome to woke religion.
Ben, why are you so obsessed with Dylan Mulvaney? Why do you keep bringing her up? I don't see any progressive religious people so obsessed with Dylan Mulvaney. You might want to go to your therapist and say, hey, I can't get this Dylan Mulvaney person out of my mind. And your therapist might say, well, Ben, I think that you might be repressing something. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Oh boy. Let's get some fake pastors over here.
I've noticed that right-wingers like Ben are increasingly accusing pastors that they disagree with of being fake. The reason that they do this is because Ben is fake. He's got nothing, and he doesn't know what to do with his own fakeness, and so he projects it onto other people. Here's what I mean. Ben has made a career off of making fun of people who are more vulnerable than he is. He goes after gay people and trans people. He goes after immigrants. And the reason that Ben does this is because Ben lacks any ability right now to do anything productive for society. He lacks the courage to actually follow the prophets and to follow actual Christian principles, and instead he scapegoats the marginalized and the vulnerable. We'll see how that happens throughout this video. So the Bible never talks about homosexuality as we talk about it today. It never talks about men or women wanting to live in a same-sex committed relationship based on mutual love and consent. For example, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is not about homosexuality. It's about
It is a little.
Sodom wanting to rape strangers.
Who happen to be of the same sex.
Oh, Ben, it looks as though that you are unaware of the fact that throughout human history, there have been heterosexual men who have raped other men, not because they are gay, but because they want to prove their dominance over those other men. You know, like make them their bitch. We see this today in prison rape, and we also see it throughout human history in warfare and in trying to put other men in their place. That is what the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about. In addition, Ben ignores what the prophets have to say about this passage. They do not say that it has something to do with sexuality. In fact, the prophet Ezekiel says this in chapter 16. This was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, excess of food, and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and the needy. For the prophets, this passage was not about homosexuality. It was about abusing strangers and not showing them hospitality. But Ben needs to ignore the prophets because the prophets' main job is to go to the political and religious leaders of their day and tell them that they are not fulfilling their divine call to care for the poor, the weak, the marginalized, the widows, and the orphans. Ben has to ignore that because actually the prophets are woke. If the prophets were alive today, Ben would accuse them of being woke because Ben rejects the prophets.
But the closest that we get to homosexuality as we understand it today, the Bible is actually very positive. When you look at the story of David and Jonathan
No.
in 2 Samuel.
No, you idiot. No.
David and Jonathan are out
Oh yes, Ben. David and Jonathan were hot for each other.
in a field, and when they are alone, they kiss. Later on, David says that the love that he shared with Jonathan was greater than any love that he had experienced with a woman.
You mean like brothers in battle, which is what they were?
Okay, Ben, let's see your example of brothers in battle.
Whoever slays the most men drinks for free.
Oh, you're buying, my friend.
Ben, you probably could have picked a better example than a man saying to another man, "Oh, you're buying, my friend," with a flirtatious smile and a twinkle in his eye. If this was happening between a man and a woman, you would all be like, "Yeah, man, that chick, she digs you." But because they're two dudes, you gotta be like, brothers, just brothers, roommates. I swear to God, they're roommates.
But the phrase in Hebrew is ad David higdil, meaning that David kissed him on the neck and was crying because they had to part until David wept greatly. And they read that differently so as to achieve some sort of same-sex relationship between David and Jonathan that literally does not exist in the text. You know what does exist in the text that I noticed that you're avoiding? Leviticus.
Got a mic right now? I drop it.
Ben, that is not the mic drop that you think it is. I don't ignore Leviticus. I have many videos on TikTok concerning Leviticus, and we all know now that you know where to find me on TikTok. Not only does David say that Jonathan's love for him was greater than that of any woman, in 1 Samuel 16, it says this: "When David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was bound to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own." Now, if this was written about a man and a woman, you would know the truth of what it was saying, which is that they were soulmates and that they loved each other. But because these are two men and Ben is committed to his homophobic interpretation, he cannot see the truth of what this is saying, which is that Jonathan and David were soulmates and that they loved each other. Ben, your major problem is that you have built your career on channeling hatred towards other people. But the problem is, hatred cannot be controlled. The hatred that you put out there only comes back to you. Ben, we all know that your Judaism is essential to who you are, and your audience hates the fact that you are Jewish. They hate the fact that you are who you are. Your audience thinks that you are going to spend eternity in hell because you are Jewish, and they will celebrate that fact because they claim that that is God's justice. They don't care about you as a Jewish man. I've seen the comments on your videos. They say Christ is king. They say, oh, Ben's Jewish, but at least he gets it right in this area. They hate you, Ben, and you have made your bed with people who hate you. They use you as a justification to channel their own hatred against other groups, and they use you as an object to convert. They don't care about you as you are. I wonder if that experience might open you up to having some empathy for other people who have been rejected for being who they are. You know, like queer people. And guess what, Ben? This woke, progressive Christian celebrates the fact that you are Jewish. I want you to be more authentically Jewish than you have ever been. I want you to live into the example of the prophets who rose up against the rich and powerful elite and challenged them to do their job to care for the poor, the widows, the orphans, and the immigrants in their midst. Now, you may think, here's this Christian pastor telling Ben Shapiro what Judaism is all about. You want to know what I know about Judaism? It is not a scapegoating religion. It is not what Ben has made it out to be. It is the exact opposite of what Ben has made Judaism to be. Judaism is about rising up against the wealthy and powerful elite who refuse to care for those who are on the margins and only gain more power and wealth for themselves. Ben, I want you to live into the example of the prophets because that is what the world needs now more than ever. But you may say that's too woke. That's your problem, Ben.